My name is Nishant. I'm a final year computer science undergraduate, currently placed at Expedia Group in the profile of product manager, such as hotels.com, Verbo, Trivago, etc. And it manages all of these companies. So generally the notion is that someone from a CS background will end up taking a software role, as you had mentioned. I realize that this role presents a kind of perfect opportunity for someone who is interested in the intersection of business and technology. Strictly off-campus opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, Expedia Group only hires for SD role on campus. They do not hire for product roles on campus. So the first two interview rounds, like I mentioned, were with the senior product managers at Expedia, and both of these are behavioral interviews.
So hi everyone, welcome to the placement experience journey brought to you by UpScale Talks. So for today's session, we have gotten Nishant. So Nishant is currently placed at Expedia Group for the profile of product manager. So I'll just give the stage to Nishant and then we can carry on with the session. So hi Nishant, can you just introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, sure. Hi Achal. Hi everyone. My name is Nishant Soni. I'm a final year computer science undergraduate at Delhi Technological University, and I'm currently placed at Expedia Group in the profile of product manager. And in this session, I'll be taking you guys through my intern and PPO experience at Expedia, and hopefully, you guys will get to learn a lot from this.
Perfect, Nishant. So I think now we can just, as you mentioned that you were an intern and then, converted that to a PPO. So it is a good opportunity and a lot of our viewers just don't know much about Expedia. So can you just give us a brief what actually Expedia is or the expertise and especially the product manager profile, because a lot of companies I don't see, offering direct product managers to the freshers. So can you just walk us through that as well?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just begin with introducing Expedia Group. So most of you would have heard of Expedia by now. Expedia is one of the largest online travel agencies in the world, and it caters mainly to online travel shopping for customers and small business travel. Expedia owns a lot of other companies such as hotels.com, Verbo, Trivago, etc. And it manages all of these companies. And it is a company that is based in Seattle. So basically, Expedia Group is offering this opportunity for product manager, which is one of the few MNCs that is offering a product manager position to undergraduates. And this opportunity was only offered off campus. As you guys may be knowing, Expedia Group offers opportunities on campus, but they are all for the role of software development engineer. So if you guys are interested in applying for PM roles, then Expedia only offers these opportunities off campus.
Okay, so before Nishant, we just move on to the next section. I have a question for you. I think you might have heard this from a lot of people coming from a CS background and then going into product domains, because I think मतलब जो CS से आता है वो software development में जाता है. So how did you and when did you try to change the roles कि product is a better option for me?
Yeah, actually it's a very good question. So generally the notion is that someone from a CS background will end up taking a software role, as you had mentioned. But in my experience, I had realized from an early stage that I'm equally interested in business. So this interest basically came out through the societies that I was part of in college and through the fests and events that I had organized. I realized that there was a part of me that was very interested in business, logistics, and operations. And so when I was looking at internship opportunities on campus during the start of my third year, I realized that I was not that interested in software development because I always wanted a part of my job to be related to business activities. And this is basically when I stumbled upon product management as a job. Before this, I had not heard of it. In fact, many people in undergraduate institutions have not heard of product management because they are not typically roles that are offered to us on campus. But after doing a lot of research and talking to seniors, I realized that this role presents a kind of perfect opportunity for someone who is interested in the intersection of business and technology. And that is where I kind of developed my interest in this role. And further after that, my interest developed when I started reading books and watching videos online on product management. So it started making a lot of sense to me.
Okay, Nishant, can you just walk us through the entire placement process, because you mentioned that the process was not conducted on campus, so it was an off-campus opportunity. Also, can you just tell us how should one be fishy to catch up the opportunities that they see? Can you just walk us through the entire process?
Yeah, sure. I'll just begin by giving you guys a brief introduction about the opportunity. So this opportunity was for the role of product management intern, and this was a strictly off-campus opportunity. As I mentioned earlier, Expedia Group only hires for SD role on campus. They do not hire for product roles on campus. So this particular opportunity was posted on the website workday.com. Workday.com is used by many other companies as well to post their job openings. So this opportunity also was posted on Expedia's domain of Workday. And Expedia Group is one of the few MNCs that are hiring PMs out of undergrad. In fact, there are only, I think, 3 or 4 companies who hire, 3 or 4 MNCs who hire undergrad fresher product managers. So Expedia is one of the few companies. And just to add to that, this was one of the highest non-tech offers anyone can get at this point. So this was a very good opportunity. And now coming to the process, basically after I had applied for this opportunity on Workday, there was a CV shortlisting. Immediately after which there was an initial HR screening round. Now this was just a basic round where the HR asked about how do you come across the opportunity, what interests you in this role, and where are you based, and all of that. Just an initial screening round. Now, after this, there were basically 3 rounds of interviews. The first 2 rounds were with senior product managers at Expedia. I will go into depth in the next slide. And the last round was with the director of product at Expedia. And this entire process lasted for 1 month, roughly.
Okay. So sure, you can just get and dwell deep into the interview processes of each of these rounds.
Good. So, like I mentioned, the initial HR round was just a basic screening round. This is really nothing to worry about. Once they had shortlisted your CV, they just wanted to make sure that you are interested in the role and you fit all of their basic criteria. Now, the real task was the next 3 interview rounds. So, the first 2 interview rounds, like I mentioned, were with the senior product managers at Expedia, and both of these are behavioral interviews. They were centered mostly around my CV achievements, projects, and past work experiences. So, at this point, it's really important to understand that any and everything that you write on your CV can be questioned in the interview. So, you really have to be thorough with your CV, and they can ask you a number of competency situational based questions from your CV. They can pick out any one experience or any one project and ask you questions like how did you lead the team, how did you manage prioritization in this project, what lessons did you learn. So I would recommend that before heading into the interview itself, you guys are well prepared with answers, with mock answers on all of your experiences mentioned in the CV. That would help you come across as well prepared. And as you know, communication is one of the key skills of any product manager. So it really leaves a good impression.
Okay.
And the third and final interview, basically, this was a full-fledged product case study. And what this interview entailed was the director of product, he gave me a situation where a company required the delivery of X product. And I had to take my interviewer through the entire product development process. So right from the initial requirement analysis to the final deployment and measuring the KPIs, which are the key performance indicators after the deployment. So I had to basically take him through the entire product development cycle of a product. And this is when, your product knowledge really comes into use. The kind of questions that you ask, the way you structure your product, the way you elicit requirements, all of these things are tested over here. And this interview was, I believe, the heaviest of all, in the sense that this would have probably carried the most weightage. So this was really the make or break interview, in my opinion.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have to be thorough with the all of the things that you have mentioned in a CV. So when it comes to I get the internship part. So when a person is appearing for or developing his profile for the product based companies, so how should he go about his projects? So what are the key performances KPIs in the performance that he has to take into account?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So I think this is something that I can relate to because in my experience also, I had no prior product experience before applying for this internship. But what I did make sure was that I included that I took up business related internships previously. Now the reason why I did this was because as a product manager they expect you not only to be technical but also have a good business acumen. So before I applied for this internship at Expedia, I had done a couple of business development or business associate internships at different companies, and this is where I could tell them that I am really interested in taking up this role because I am going out of my way and pursuing business internships. So that kind of showed that my profile has a good mix of both. So if you are from a strictly technical background, I would say that you should get out of your way a little bit and try to do business internships. And it does not necessarily need to be business development. It could be anything related to that domain. So this will kind of tell the interviewer that yeah, you are interested and you are going out of your way to make an effort.
Okay. Also, a quick question over here that you mentioned in the third round, you had to, design a proper proper product from the base, right? So, how should the person watching this video go about it? Can you just walk us through, Keith, what all you thought about? Yeah, I will be including this. I will be telling this to the interviewer, and how important is to speak that all of the thoughts that you're having out loud, because a lot of time interviewer is the one who will be helping you out, and it's very important for him to understand what you're going through.
Yeah, that's true. So, look, in my opinion, the kind of structure that you will follow while defining your product mainly comes from your study that you have done prior. So, like I will be talking on after this slide, there are various resources which will help you to structure your thoughts and build that proper structure to define a product. So, in my opinion, you need to ask a lot of questions before starting off with your product itself, and each and every step that you are defining, you need to be vocal about it and ask your interviewer if he is if he is comfortable with it, if he is okay with it or not, because often interviewers will reciprocate. They will tell you when they think that something is way out of line. So better than just going into that and messing up the whole interview is if you just keep a level head with the interviewer from the base itself. And the various techniques that you can follow while doing a product case study, well, I will explain that in the next slide.
Okay, so sure, we can, just move to the next slide, and you can walk us through the entire preparation. How did you go about it, preparing for the cases? Or you mentioned you watched a lot of videos and structured the thoughts accordingly. So can you just walk us through that as
Yeah,
well?
sure. So, yeah, I'll begin with this. How I went about with my preparation. So, my preparation was mainly done via online resources. I would credit my preparation mainly towards books and online platforms such as Product Plan and Product School. The books that I refer to mainly were Cracking the PM Interview by Gail and Jackie, and this book called Inspired by Marty Kagan. So this books are a great place to start for any new aspiring product manager. You pick up these product management books and you read them to its entirety. You will get to know a lot of things that you do not understand from the outside, and they will help you build a good product base. After you're done with your basic information, you can move on to resources on the internet such as Product Plan and Product School. So these guys have a lot of videos. They have even courses and even more books that you can refer. And through all of this, you will get to know that there are many different kind of ways to approach a product case study, and the best way to test your knowledge in a practical way is to participate in mock PM interviews, which is also something that I did. So there are a couple of YouTube channels such as Rocket Blogs that have many mock PM interviews available, and you can go through these interviews to prepare and study. And once you have got the gist of them, you can participate in mock PM interviews with your friends or your seniors or any known product managers in the industry. This will really help you gain confidence to perform well in the interview.
Okay, just to add on the YouTube channel one, I also recommend one channel that is Exponent. I personally went through a lot of videos and that was really helpful. Sure. So apart from this, you mentioned that you started with the books and you went through the mock interview preparations. What external thoughts did you had in mind? Here, I would be able to crack this. This is the barrier. Like, what were your pain points when you were preparing for the interviews? Because coming from a CS background and then going into the product is a life changing decision for you. So what were your pain points? Can you just identify them for us?
Sure. So I think one of the main inhibitions that you have as a technical person while going into product is, will you be able to express your business thoughts accurately or not? And this was also the main barrier for me. So the way that I tried, the way that I felt that this could be overcome is by relating my experiences to my internships. So in my interviews, whenever I was asked questions to prove my business intellect or to prove my business, acumen, I always refer to my internships, and I gave examples from there that, in this situation, I solved this and this problem using this methodology, or I was able to make other people understand the requirements. So being from a technical background, I was still able to make non-technical people understand the technical requirements. So these are the kind of things that they look for in product managers, because as a PM you should be able to communicate well with the entire team. And the team does not only consist of developers, it consists of analysts, it consists of marketing professionals, business professionals, finance professionals. So you really need to have a good set of communication skills. And I think a very good way to do this is by relating to your past experiences. And this is what worked well for me in my case.
Okay, so I think you have that kind of experience right now that you can be a mentor to someone who is an aspiring PM, or in some product roles, let it be analyst or APM roles. So can you just walk us through just what is your strategy that you can recommend to the viewers watching this? Let's say that they are in first year, second year, or third year and have an aspiration to be on the product side. So can you just tell us about what are your thoughts? What should they start with, and just gaining more and more experience out of that?
Okay, sure. So I just want to give like a preface that you guys know PM is a tough role to crack. So the main thing to keep in mind is not to get demotivated. In my case, also this was not my first application to a PM role. This was maybe the 10th or 15th application for a PM role. And what I would suggest is to build an interest from your early days itself. In my case, I was only introduced to product management in the start of my third year. But if you are someone who has been aware of this role from much earlier, then it is even better for you. You can start along with the preparation process earlier itself. And once you are introduced to the product side of things, you can start visualizing products in your day to day life also. This is actually a very good exercise to carry out to keep your product skills sharp. You can pick out any product in your day to day life, in your surroundings, and try to break that product down. Try to see what works, what does not work, what features you would add, and then you can always look up these things online, because there are numerous product case studies on almost every product available. So this is a good exercise that I still carry out now also. Whenever I use a new product or whenever I come across something novel, I always try to break down the product. And that is essentially what a product manager needs to be strong at. It needs to be he or she needs to be strong at analyzing the pros and cons. So if you are an early adopter, then start studying about product management from your early days and work your way up to a CV that is presentable for a product role. It is unlikely that your first ever internship will be a product management internship. So the best way to get up to that level is by doing similar related roles, maybe picking up a product analyst role or a business development role to really show your interest in this. And from there you can start applying to companies off campus. So as you guys may be knowing that product management roles specifically aren't very common on campus. I think there are only a couple of companies that offer product related roles. So other than applying to those, you really have to place your bets off campus, and the best way to do this is by keeping a strong eye out on LinkedIn, Workday, and all these job platforms. And if there are any openings in companies where your friends or mentors work in, make sure to reach out to them and keep applying, because in product it's all about quantity. You need to send as many applications, as many preparations, as many tries as possible, because really the competition is hard. So don't get demotivated, keep trying.
Okay. So that's all the plan, or do you have something else in the bank? Because I guess you haven't given the actual advice ki yaar ye kar lo, this will help you a lot. So can you just give us more on that, and let's also move ahead with the presentation.
Yeah, sure. So this part I want to just give you guys some tips for preparing for product interviews. So first thing to keep in mind is that confidence and clear communication are the two most important qualities of any good PM. Keep in mind that PM is a typically front facing job, so you will spend a lot of time interacting with various departments and stakeholders. So try your best to remain calm, confident, and communicate effectively during your interviews. This is why I had earlier mentioned to practice mock answers based on your CV, because that really helps to bring across these factors in the interview. Secondly, try solving basic problem solving questions and competency based questions beforehand. For example, what I mean by competency based questions is, for example, the interviewer can ask you that if you are in this position, how would you carry out the prioritization process? Or if you are in a team where there was a conflict between two opposing views, how would you solve that as a leader? So all of these questions are very relevant to the product manager profile, and if you can practice these beforehand, then that will really help you. And try to understand the product development process in detail. So nowadays, most of the product developed out using the agile methodology. Previously, we used to use waterfall methodology, but nowadays most of the big companies adopt agile methodology. And having in-depth knowledge of this always helps during your product interviews, because product interviews can go a little bit into the technical side as well. Because if you are an engineer, especially, they would like to test your technical knowledge. In my opinion, they will not ask you, or they had not asked me to do any coding. So, but they did expect me to have a good knowledge of computer science, because I am from computer science background. So that is something you should keep in mind. And lastly, I think this is a very relevant tip, and which most candidates overlook, is research and read about the company you are interviewing with, and understand the mission, the purpose, and the values associated with the company. What I mean by this is that almost every big company out there has a set of set of rules, set of values that they adhere to, and it is always good to read about this beforehand and keep them in your mind, so that you can incorporate these sentiments into your answers. That will automatically show the interviewer that you are a good fit for the company.
Okay, just coming back to the first point that you mentioned about the clear communication one. So, how do you recommend, a person watching this can improve on his communication skills? Because as you previously mentioned, that product manager is basically connecting all of the different departments and getting the best result out of it. Like, let it be analyst, let it be finance, let it be developers. So he or she has a collection of all of these people around him, and he has to get the best results out of it. So communication clearly is one of the most important role. What I say, it's one of the most important tricks to have during the interview. So how do you recommend on improving that?
Right. So this is actually a very relevant question. And the best way to do this, I feel, is to always put yourself out there in every situation possible. So, I developed a good communication sense through the various societies that I was part of, through public speaking, through communicating, to participating on projects, leading societies, etc. And this is something that you cannot really build theoretically. It has to be something built practically. So try to put yourself out there in situations which you are uncomfortable in, and you will learn from those experiences. It's not something that comes overnight. It will take some time, but a very good way to test this is actually in your mock PM interviews, because at that point you will be communicating with someone who is already a PM or who has experience being a PM. So they will be able to tell you if your language is coming across in a good way, or if there are gaps in your communication.
Okay, also, a last question before we wrap this session up. So, I have a question that, I see a lot of people getting interns, but, actually converting those interns into full-time role is one of the most crucial parts of their career. So, given that you have already, mastered at that, so can you just give us some tips ki yaar ye kar lo? Maybe you will have a better chance of getting a PPO.
Right. So, you see, in my experience, it is important that you build a good connection with your mentor slash manager at your company. So, whoever is the person who you are reporting to, have a good rapport with them, and take the intern as seriously as you would any other thing, because it ultimately determines your future, whether you will get the job or not. So do your things on time, have a good rapport with your manager, and even as an intern, companies are not treating you like a temporary employee. They like to see you taking initiatives, and they like to see you become a part of their company. So, just try to take that as a full time role and perform your best. Yeah, that's it. In my experience, all of this has worked.
Okay, so thank you, Nishant, for taking out time and recording this for us. So before we wrap this session up, do you have any last piece of advice for the people watching this and preparing for the product interview, product PM roles, and then we can wrap the session up?
Yeah, sure. So, like I mentioned earlier, a product is a difficult role to crack, but it is one that has, immense benefits. And right now, it is one of the hottest roles available in tech companies. So, try to get a good head start. Try to start preparing early. That's what worked in my case as well. Do not postpone your preparation after you get the first interview call. Prepare before itself. And another thing that I found useful, which I also did, was participate in product case studies online. So many colleges, they have product case studies year in year out. So have a team of product people who are interested and try to participate in those studies, in those competitions, and that will not only add value to your resume, but that will also help you improve in your presentation and communication skills when you ultimately present your case studies to the panel. So that is something to keep in mind. Other than that, just try to keep yourself in touch with your daily products as much as possible, and always have your product mind on. And yeah, keep trying, it'll work out.
Okay, so thank you, Nishant, for recording this for us, and thank you all for watching this. Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you. All the best, guys.